Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to Monique on the mic. I'm your host, Monique B. Thomas, and I'm super excited to bring to you the second episode of 2025. Now, last year, my motto was raise your standards. And this year, it's going to be a little bit different. This year, it's going to be don't talk about it, be about it. Now, what does that mean? It means less daydreaming and more doing. Now, I'm all for daydreaming. I love to dream. I'm a huge dreamer, but you got to do something different after dreaming. Less waiting, more action. So this year, I'm inviting you to join me in living out this energy. I want you to get into the energy, the spirit of action. Today's episode is all about action and why it matters, how to make it happen, and what's coming this year to help you reach your goals. This episode is going to be short and sweet, but intentional. So let's get right into it. Now, before I talk about what this motto means to me, I just want to talk to you a little bit about my 2024. You may not know this because I don't speak about this in my podcast, but I like to be transparent. 2024 was a very, very, very difficult year for me. To be quite honest, 2024 kicked my ass. Okay. And it kicked my ass because I had a lot of aspirations. I had a lot of things I wanted to get done. And I underestimated how much work it was going to be and how much time it was going to take and how much patience that was required to get these things done. I didn't realize that in order to get the things done, I needed to become a different person. And so with all of those things having not been accounted for, I found myself facing so many difficulties all year long. But here's the thing. I got through them, but I forgot to take the time to sort of pat myself on the back each step of the way. Like I did manage to, for example, I had this podcast that I started, over a year ago, and I managed to do every week. I did give myself a 1 month break off because I was about to lose my mind by the end of the year, but I did that, but I think the thing that really made it hard for me is that I didn't spend enough time patting myself on the back. I checked the things I had to do off the list, and once it was done, I just jumped back into new things. And the feeling that I had by the end of last year was, I actually felt like a failure, which is kind of crazy when you think of the fact that I'm in the middle of rebuilding my business after having been on tour for over a year and a half and, losing lots of clients, not because there was something wrong with me, but I wasn't available. So, I had the podcast, the weekly podcast. I had the weekly newsletter, which I did not stop at any moment. It went out every single week. So those two things together, plus continuing to study and up my skills as a singer and voice teacher. And let's not forget, I have children. I'm a single mom. And so I had all these things to do and I got them done somehow. And let me tell you that, let's say that organization has not been my strong suit. I'm learning to get organized and it's getting better and better. But this is a one-woman show. Everything that you know about me, it's all done by me. I have very little help outside of my personal assistant, which has been very helpful. I have to give a shout out to Carla Puccini, because without her, I would have lost my mind a long time ago, and probably the podcast would have stopped a long time ago, because she allows me to free my brain up to do the things that only I can do, and she does the other stuff. So thanks to Carla. But in any case, I finished the year really tired, and I was anxious. I was having anxiety attacks, and it was just rough. I mean, on the brink of depression. It was really, really, really tough. And then I decided to change some things around. I changed my mindset. I began to meditate again. I began to practice gratitude. I'll just make a long story short. I had to change my stinking thinking. And those things began to help me as I began to appreciate my listeners, the people that read my newsletter, the students who trust me with their voices and their artistry, and of course, my family and friends and loved ones. This began to help me turn things around, and I took some time off as well, which was a needed break because I do tend to be a workaholic. And then, of course, with the vacation and eating great food and spending time with loved ones. All of that made it so I could finish out this year and start this next year the way I wanted to. So let's talk about this year and what this motto means to me. I've learned that talking about what you want, it is satisfying. It's important in the moment. It's like telling someone you're going to start practicing every day or you're going to do an audition for a big opportunity. It feels good to say it out loud rather than to just keep it in your brain. But here's the thing. If you don't take action, those words mean nothing. I mean nothing at all. Let me give you an example. I've had moments where I tell myself, I'm going to learn this new song by the end of the week. But unless I actually carve out time and sit down and get to work, it wouldn't happen because there's always something more important that shows up. And it's not even necessarily more important. It just shows up and I give my attention to it. And so that song I wanted to work on never gets worked on. And that's why this year I'm committed to being all about it. It's all about action, no matter how small the step. Because here's the truth. Progress doesn't come from wishing or talking about your goals. It comes from showing up over and over again and doing the work. So this year, yes, you and me, we're going to focus on how to take the first step and make it count. So I want to give you some tools to help you get into action. The first thing I want to talk about is the power of deadlines. One of the biggest game changers for me has been putting deadlines in my calendar. So I use a digital calendar, on my iPhone. And if you're still on paper, that's great too. Actually, writing things handwritten is always better when it comes to things that are close to your heart. But whatever works for you, write it down. So let me share a quick story. In 2023, when I was just thinking about doing a podcast, and then I started talking about doing a podcast, I had to come up with a date. And I believe the date was originally end of November, or something like that. So I started doing the work and planning everything out. And I had written it on my calendar. I even did announcements on the internet for it, I think on my Instagram page. And I get close to it and I start sweating and I'm about ready to pee myself because I realize there's no way in hell I'm going to make that deadline. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And at that time, I was in a community of other creators and business owners, entrepreneurs. And I asked, what should I do? How am I going to save face? I'm not going to make the deadline for my podcast. And somebody just said, just push the deadline back. I'm like, no, but I had already announced it and I want to have egg all over my face. And sometimes things can really be that simple. I simply pushed the deadline back. I mean, to be honest, I don't think anybody really cared if I pushed the deadline back by 2 or 3 weeks or at all. It really was just me with myself, giving myself a hard time. I pushed the deadline back. I was able to get everything out on time. I launched with 3 episodes out of the gate. And I was proud of myself. And then I just kept moving on from there. And it was no big deal. But here's the thing. Had I not set a date to begin with, I'd probably still be talking about this podcast. So I set a date. And of course, I didn't know how long it was going to take. I got it done. I pushed the podcast date back and it finally came out. And so that is the magic of writing things down in your calendar. So the lesson is when you put something in your calendar, it becomes real. It's no longer just an idea floating in your head. It is a commitment to yourself. So here's my first challenge for you this year. Take one thing you've been talking about doing and schedule it. Not someday, this week. Write it in your calendar with a specific time and date, and you'll be amazed at how much more likely you are to follow through. Now, if this is new to you, start small. Rome wasn't built in a day. Start with something very, very small. It could be something as simple as, I'm going to practice 3 times a week, and I want you to carve that out in your calendar. Now, here's another thing that will help you take action. You've got to start before you're ready. And I know that seems backwards. It seems really backwards. But if you wait till you're ready, you'll never be ready. And that mentality is what holds you back. waiting until you feel ready. You're never going to feel ready. Let me tell you a secret. There's no such thing as feeling 100% ready. You're always going to find something. Your brain is always going to find something that you could or should be doing better. The key is to start anyway. Action is going to help you build momentum, and momentum is going to help you build confidence. So even if you're not sure how something will turn out, just take the first step. It's better than standing still. And once you've taken that first step, you've built a little bit of confidence, you've built a little momentum, then you can look to what is your next best step, one step at a time. Here's something else I, learned last year is that you've got to celebrate your small wins, every single small win. So if you don't celebrate your wins and your progress every time you take a step forward, it's almost like you're beating yourself up, or you're not acknowledging yourself, and that never feels good. I mean, did you practice for 10 minutes? If you did, that's a win. Did you finally book that lesson or record that demo? Those are also wins. Progress is built on these small steps, these small moments. So make sure that you're constantly taking the time to recognize them, because that's going to help build momentum, but also help you build in positive reinforcement for this kind of behavior. So let's talk about this year. I've got so many exciting things planned to help you take action and achieve your goals. Of course, I'm going to have some great guests who are going to share their artist stories, helping us to feel a little bit less weird along our journey. I've got this new style cohort that I'll tell you about when the time is right. I'm going to be doing more free online workshops and giving out free resources. Everything is designed to help you stop dreaming and start doing. Whether you're looking to develop your unique style, improve your technique, or just feel more confident in your singing and in your career, I've got you covered. But I just want you to know that this year, another thing that I'm focused on is making sure that I'm bringing the most value to you that I can. And a lot of it is going to be free because I know how hard it is. So I want you to stay tuned for all the details. And don't forget, taking action starts now. What's one step that you can take this week to move closer to your goals? I want you to write it in your calendar. Make that happen. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If this message resonates with you, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this episode with a friend, or send me a message at my email, info@moniquebthomas.com, or even on social media. You can find me under Monique B. Thomas everywhere. Pretty much everywhere. Don't forget, if it's in your calendar, it's real. Let's make 2025 a year of action, not just talk. No more talk. Let's be about it. I'll talk to you next week. Musically, Monique.